Hey friends, MCH here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you have a lot of options when it comes to YouTube, and I appreciate you stopping by. So, good news, bad news. The bad news is I am really new to YouTube and YouTubing. Can I turn that into a verb? That's right? Yeah, YouTubing. And I'm probably gonna fumble through this quite a bit. So please bear with me. But the good news is I am not new to screenwriting at all. In fact, I am very familiar with screenwriting, and I want to share with you all the secrets I've learned from working with some of the top professionals in Hollywood. I have worked with the biggest producers, the biggest movie stars, the greatest screenwriters, and I have learned so much from these A-list talents. And I've taken all that in, I've taken everything I've learned, and I've distilled it into an extremely easy to learn method that I call the fast draft method. So if you're interested in learning more, and you're interested in a free video, please click on the link posted below. Now, as far as YouTube goes, I will be posting tips and tricks as well as missives and musings from a professional screenwriter who has been in this glorious and frustrating industry for almost 25 years. So I hope you continue to join me on this brand new YouTube adventure. And if you dig what I'm doing, please like and subscribe and tell all your friends, or, tell no one, and it'll be our little secret. Today, we're gonna eat our vegetables. We're gonna talk a little bit about formatting and structure. Actually, it's not that bad. It's quite fun. Today, in this video, I want to talk about what goes into an action element of your script, specifically the do's and don'ts, right? Now, for those of you who are new to screenwriting, the action element of your screenplay is the narrative thread, right? This is where you introduce your characters, you set the tone, and you describe the action in the scene, or what's happening. It's the storytelling part of your script. So when you're writing action in your screenplay, you want to be succinct, punchy, and as entertaining as possible. Remember, this is the narrative thread, right? This is the space where the reader discovers what is happening and who is in the scene. The three main components of the action element are the narration, the objective action, and the subjective action, right? So the narration is just a description of what the audience sees, right? Exterior, cul-de-sac, day. We see a Tudor house sitting at the end of a cul-de-sac, right? It's just, nothing's happening, it's just what we see. Then there's the objective action, right? Now this is the action that's taking place in the scene, like what is happening in the scene. So, for example, the boulder smashes through its encasement and chases Indiana Jones, right? So there's the action, right? That's what's happening in the scene. And then the subjective action is what your character does in the scene. Right? So as the boulder careens towards Indy, he jumps and catches on a branch, slowly pulling himself to safety, right? So that's what he's doing, the subjective action. So the simple hard and fast rule when it comes to writing subjective action in your screenplay, it's very simple. You just follow the character that leads the action, right? So if you've got like 4 or 5 people in a scene and you want the reader to focus on who's leading the action, right? So make sure you start, with them. And the formula is very simple. The subjective action formula is very simple. If it's the first time we're meeting a character, you start with their name, name and age, right? So that we kind of get an understanding of who we're looking at. The descriptor, right? What they look like. The emotional state or how they feel about what it is that they're about to do, and then the action. So the subjective action formula for the first time we see a character is name, descriptor, emotion, action. Anytime after the first time we've seen them, right? It's just, you just take away the descriptor. So it's name, who's leading the action, emotion, how they feel about what they're going to do, and then action. I know that kind of sounds confusing, so what I'm going to do is I am going to demonstrate in a script that I've written just to show you this hard and fast rule on how you write subjective action. All right, so here's a quick scene that I wrote, and I will describe subjective action and sort of the subjective action formula on how to write in an action element. All right, interior house, kitchen day, Mallory, 30s, hair tousled, quietly weeping, is sitting in the kitchen table, clutching something to her chest. A mess of envelopes and letters surround her. The doorbell rings. After a moment, she unfolds her hand to reveal a framed picture. Extreme close-up on the picture. Mallory and Jason, her deceased husband, are sitting on the deck of a boat, happy and in love. The doorbell rings again. Mallory snaps out of it, composes herself, and struggles to stand, revealing that she is very pregnant. And she frustratingly says, coming. Mallory waddles toward the front door. We do a slow push on an open letter on the table, which reads, past due. And then we dissolve to another scene. Okay, so that's the scene. I'm just going to break it down for you here. Okay, so the hard and fast rule for, describing subjective action, as I mentioned, is you start with the character, Mallory, 30s. Now, because this is the first time that we see her, we do a descriptor, hair tousled, right? So Mallory, 30s, hair tousled, and then we do her emotional state. She's quietly weeping, and then her subjective action. She's sitting at a kitchen table, clutching something to her chest, okay? So it's character, descriptor, emotion, subjective action. And then a mess of envelopes and open letters surround her. That's narration. The doorbell rings. That is objective action, right? Something that's happening in the scene. After a moment, she unfolds her hands to reveal a framed picture, right? So she unfolds her hands. This is subjective action and then narration. Extreme close-up on the picture. This is narration. Mallory and Jason, we're sort of telling a story here. Mallory and Jason, her deceased husband, are sitting on the deck of a boat, happy and in love, right? So we're getting a sense that this is her past. That's why we use that's why we use the action to narrate. The doorbell rings again. Okay, so that's objective action. And now we're going to go through the actor that's leading the action or the character that's leading the action, but it's the second time that we've met them in the scene, so we don't have to use the descriptor. So it goes character, emotional state, right? So Mallory snaps out of it, composes herself, and struggles to stand, subjective action, revealing that she is very pregnant. That is narration. And of course, this part here is, the character speaking. She says she's coming. She's very frustrated. And Mallory waddles toward the front door. That is subjective action. That is what she's doing in the scene. And then we do a camera move here, which is a slow push on an open letter on the table, which reads past due. Right? So we're visually telling a story. We're telling the audience, this is through narration, right? It's narrated on the page, but visually we're telling the audience that she's probably in debt. So that's the hard and fast rule for writing action, keeping it concise, keeping it tight. Once again, if it's the first time, we go character, description, emotional state, subjective action. And if it's the second time or any time afterwards, we just do character because she's the character leading the action, emotional state, subjective action, and then, narration. All right. So here's a pro tip. So when describing a character, right, for the first time, what the character looks like when you're using the descriptor, try and avoid using objectifying language like beautiful or sexy or handsome and hot. Look, this is Hollywood. Okay, you can assume that anyone playing any of these roles are going to be excessively easy on the eyes. And here's a pro tip for the male writers out there, okay? Avoid writing with the male gaze. What does that mean? It means that you have an opinion about what your characters look like. That's the male gaze. It's like saying, Mallory, 30s, she's pretty but doesn't know it, okay? Your opinions about what your female characters look like are irrelevant, right? Readers and producers can smell this a mile away, and it reeks of amateur. Another component to the action element is direction for the actor. See, this is where the actor, when they read the script, this is where they get their instructions. For example, Mallory, scared, grabs the gun and walks over to the kitchen, right? See, there's an action. It's telling the actor what she's going to do in the scene. So when you're writing in your action element, you want to make it actable. Actors cannot act a wish or a thought. They can act an emotional state. In fact, they love it. So feel free to throw in, how they're feeling about something, but just know that they can't act a wish or a thought. Do not use literary style. It doesn't work in a screenplay. I'm telling you this from experience. I was guilty of this for a long time, and I had my ass handed to me repeatedly when I wrote long descriptive passages of how the evening sunset falls like a lover's kiss, lovingly illuminating the sky with a red hue that can only signal the end of a once brilliant radiance, reminding Mallory of everything she's lost. Like, all of that is garbage. It's a no-no. Not to mention a complete waste of screenplay real estate, because none of this can be translated into action, right? And Mallory cannot act a reminder. Actors cannot act a wish or a thought. So a lot of new writers think that these intricately detailed sentences will somehow inform the imagery of the film. They won't. So forget the similes and the metaphors and just write what the character does or what the audience sees and leave it at that. See, your job as a screenwriter is to tell a story, not to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. Trust me, as someone who used to revel in literary style, and as I mentioned before, I've had my ass handed to me on more than one occasion for wasting producers' time, so save yourself an ass handing. Don't do it. All right, so that's my take on what to write and what not to write in the action element of your screenplay. Now, if you like what you saw and you want to learn more and you want to gain access to all my screenwriting secrets, please click the link below in the description for a free video about the fast draft method. Thank you so much for tuning in. And once again, if you dig what I'm doing, be sure to tell all your friends. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And I will see you very soon. Until then, happy writing, friends.